Amtrak 501. Emergency. We are on the ground.
An Amtrak train derails above I-5.
We felt a little bit of a jolt, and then at a certain point, we could hear crumpling of the train car, and we were catapulted into the seats in front of us.
The train cars tumble onto drivers below.
Is everybody okay?
I'm still figuring that out. We got cars everywhere and down onto the highway.
As we ask, how could this happen?
You just knew when you saw it that something horrible happened, especially because it was a passenger train.
Stories of heroism are being shared.
I helped him get down, and he helped me get down, and then we helped another person get down, and then we just walked out.
What we are learning about the inaugural run for a higher speed service that turned into a disaster.
First, live, local. The 5 o'clock news starts now on Fox 12 Oregon. Live from Fox 12 Oregon, this is breaking news.
An Amtrak train derailed on a brand new route, sending rail cars plunging onto Interstate 5 below. This happened just south of Tacoma in the city of Dupont. Here's a live look at the scene right now this evening. You can see many emergency crews and investigators still there. Now, the passengers who were on board were southbound on the way to Portland's Union Station.
Washington State Patrol is now confirming that 3 people have died, which is fewer than some of the previous reports. Troopers say several agencies are involved, and because of the complexity of the incident, the numbers may change. Pierce County Sheriff's Office says all of the victims who died were on board the train. About 100 patients were treated at hospitals in Pierce and Thurston counties. That train has not moved, and I-5 southbound is closed right now. The governor in Washington declaring a state of emergency. Good evening. Welcome to the 5 o'clock news. I'm Pete Ferryman.
And I'm Elizabeth Dinh. Thanks for being with us tonight. We bring you team coverage from many different perspectives. We begin now with Fox 12's Jamie Wilson. She's live tonight in Dupont, where the derailment happened. Jamie?
Well, Liz, the cleanup efforts and the investigation here are both really just beginning. Let's take another look behind us here at the scene, where it is just an incredible sight, and not much has changed here since it first happened this morning. You can see that a couple of these train cars are still dangling off of this bridge above I-5. But even though they are in that spot, incredibly, we learned just a few minutes ago that firefighters have been inside those cars to search them. And beyond that, obviously they want to get this cleared up, so heavy equipment experts have been brought in with massive vehicles to eventually move these cars. And once they do secure them and get them down safely, investigators want to search these cars and the tracks to figure out exactly how this happened. With 77 passengers and 7 crew members on board, Amtrak train 501 left Seattle at 6 a.m. today, bound for Portland. But at 7:30, a smooth morning ride became a total nightmare. 12 passenger cars and 1 engine jumped the tracks, falling off this trellis onto cars on I-5 below.
We came around the corner, and it's sobering, to say the least. You know, there were cars on both sides of the bridge falling onto the freeway. There appeared to be, it looked like a semi and a passenger truck that was underneath, the whole front end smashed in. I mean, it was a very brief moment, but that's what it looked like to me.
Fire officials now confirm 3 people were killed. Paramedics rushed dozens more to local hospitals, many with critical injuries. It was the inaugural trip of this brand new Amtrak Cascades route, one that avoided tricky turns and could allow the train to go faster. One passenger took notice of the speed right before the crash.
The train was going between 70 and 80 miles an hour. Because we could tell that because we were passing up traffic on the freeway, and we felt a little bit of a jolt, and then at a certain point we could hear crumpling of the train car, and we were catapulted into the seats in front of us.
I can tell you that it's being investigated by NTSB, and anything beyond that right now, until their findings are out, is pure speculation.
An Amtrak spokeswoman is not commenting on speed or any potential causes for the derailment. That will be handled by the NTSB. For now, she says Amtrak is focused on the victims.
Amtrak is going to do everything possible to take care of the passengers, employees, and their families affected by today's event.
And back out here live, you can see obviously that as this investigation continues, I-5 southbound is still closed tonight and will be into tomorrow, possibly even beyond that. So stay tuned for the details on that closure. There is a detour for southbound travelers. However, I-5 northbound is moving along just fine in this area, and troopers are asking that northbound drivers not get off early because there was an issue with clogging up side streets earlier, so all those lanes are open, and troopers ask once again that you stick to the highway. Live in Dupont, Washington tonight, Jamie Wilson, Fox 12 Oregon.
Jamie, thanks. And it's certainly difficult for us to really comprehend this, but we can imagine it was a frightening ordeal on board that train, even below on I-5. We do have the radio transmissions of the moment the train derailed.
Take a listen to the moments the engineer reported the crash.
Amtrak 501. Emergency, emergency, emergency. We are on the ground. We are on the bridge 5 in the square.
That'll do. Easy stop, TAC 4.
On the freeway. Need EMS ASAP. It looks like they're already starting to show up.
BNSF to trainer dispatcher 501. Come in.
Amtrak 501 answering Centralia North, over.
Hey guys, what happened?
We were coming around the corner to take the bridge over I-5 there, right north into Squally, and we went on the ground.
Okay, are you, is everybody okay?
I'm still figuring that out. We got cars everywhere and down onto the highway.
And we want to show you exactly where this happened. If you've driven up to Seattle, you have passed the city of Dupont. It's just south of Tacoma, but north of Olympia. That's about 130 miles north of Portland.
And so that train, once again, headed southbound to Portland's Union Station. Some of the surviving passengers arrived there just a short time ago.
And Fox 12's Kelsey Watts is here in studio with us tonight with that part of the coverage. Actually, you're out at the scene now, Kelsey. Forgive me, we've got crews just about everywhere. What can you tell us?
Well, Pete, this afternoon, a handful of people arrived here at Union Station around 3:30 today after what, of course, has been an incredibly traumatic day. Of course, we spoke with a father who was here waiting. He's from Portland. He was here waiting for that bus to arrive so that he could wrap his arms around his 23-year-old daughter who was on board that train today.
I do not know what car she was in. I tried to keep the questions to a minimum, knowing that I was blessed by her being alive and that all those questions would be just facts later.
And this is video of that bus arriving with his daughter and 7 others on board. His name is Brett Lane. He told us he heard about the derailment this morning when his daughter called him. He said luckily she still had her phone and her purse, but everything else was gone. He tried driving up to Dupont, Washington to pick her up, but got about 45 minutes away when he found out she was being bused down here to Portland. So he turned around, made his way here to Union Station and waited for that bus to arrive. He said his daughter was understandably very shaken and had some medical issues even before this happened. Now he'll be doing everything possible to treat her both physically and emotionally the best way they know how.
She was so distraught that she could not make everything out. That's how she was impacted.
And as you saw there in that video, the Red Cross was here today to meet those people coming off the bus. In fact, they've been here at Union Station all day, ready to provide anyone who might be affected, family members and friends, with any kind of emotional support they might need, mental health counseling, food, even ground transportation for those arriving passengers here today after what has been an incredibly difficult day. Live at Union Station tonight, Kelsey Watts, Fox 12 Oregon.
Kelsey, thanks. And you're right, this has been an incredibly difficult day as we look at these images. This is a live look for you from the scene. Again, this is right at I-5 in Dupont in Washington. And you can see that investigators still on scene. There is so much for them left to do. Now, our team coverage picks up and continues with Fox 12's John Hendricks.
He's live at the Dupont City Hall where some of those who were on the train were taken. John?
Hey guys, this is the place where folks were brought who were thankfully not injured to either meet up with family or catch a bus home. This morning's crash left them shaken, but ready to be back with loved ones. This was not supposed to happen.
This was the first run down the new line.
Mangled steel and rail cars dangling over I-5 near Dupont, Washington.
Well, the cars are all twisted up and everything.
Anthony Raimondi was on this train, in the front car, sitting in business class. This was supposed to be a day trip to Portland and back, when 13 cars somehow jumped the tracks.
Just felt the train kind of leaning towards the side, and then pretty much everything went dark, and stuff started flying around, and that was pretty much it.
In that dark train, he and other passengers tried to find a safe way out.
One guy he pushed the window out, because you can push those windows out. And then I helped him get down, and he helped me get down, and then we helped another person get down.
They emerged and saw all of this. From the air, you can see what Raimondi walked away from. At Dupont City Hall, Washington Governor Jay Inslee met with those on the train and their families.
We can wrap our arms around these families and extend our prayers and our hearts to them.
He then went to the scene of the crash, where he too saw the damage firsthand. As for Raimondi, he says he feels very lucky he was able to walk away and be able to head home to give his friends and family a much-needed hug.
I feel for their families and for the people. I just feel my hearts go out to the families of those people.
Now, we did see a few Red Cross volunteers here in Dupont. They were activated earlier this morning to help with those relief efforts. Right now, they are on standby if they're not out helping. Reporting live from Dupont, John Hendricks, Fox 12 Oregon.
John, thank you. Some heartbreaking images continue to come into the newsroom. Here are some of them that were sent to us from the Pierce County Sheriff's Office. You can see crews hard at work trying to save those inside the train. Still a lot of questions tonight as the NTSB GO team arrives and tries to determine exactly what went wrong.
The 5 o'clock news is just getting started.
Those frightening moments brought out the best in some people, like an OHSU surgeon. After the break, he talks with us about how his training and experience immediately kicked into full gear.
And that train was on a brand new route. We take a closer look at the controversy surrounding its opening.
Let me begin by expressing our deepest sympathies and most heartfelt prayers for the victims of the train derailment in Washington state. We are closely monitoring the situation and coordinating with local authorities. It is all the more reason why we must start immediately fixing the infrastructure of the United States.
That was President Trump responding to the Amtrak derailment in Dupont, Washington. We've been following this breaking news all day. At least 3 people died, 100 others injured. We're also hearing stories of heroes who jumped in to save people in the crash, including a surgeon who works at OHSU. He was one of the first people at the scene.
In fact, that doctor was driving up I-5 to go to Seattle when this happened. Fox 12's Brenna Kelly joins us live in studio. And Brenna, you just spoke with him very recently. Did he talk about how his training and his experience must have kicked in at that moment?
Yeah, absolutely, Liz. Though he said he didn't have any supplies on him, there were enough fire trucks around, so they were never short. Dr. Nathan Selden tells me while he was driving up I-5, he saw southbound traffic slow down and then become completely non-existent. He says that's when he heard ambulances and knew something was wrong. Selden tells me he was a little worried about getting in the way of emergency crews, but was told they needed him immediately. This is a picture Selden tweeted from the scene after he helped the last of his patients onto an ambulance. He said there were already a dozen patients in the triage area when he got there, some walking, some being carried, and there was another handful of off-duty emergency responders like Selden himself and members of the public who pulled over to see how they could help. He says they needed him to examine people and identify their injuries, helping those who needed priority for the next available ambulance.
Probably the worst was a young patient, young adult who had It looked like a pretty significant pelvic fracture and leg fracture. Severe pain, but was conscious and talking with us, who got stabilized, boarded up, and sent to one of the surrounding trauma centers. This is completely unlike anything I've ever experienced, and honestly, probably unlike anything I ever will experience.
Selden says this is by far the largest traumatic event he's ever been associated with. He says he's grateful for the expertise of the EMT crews and was glad he could lend a hand outside of his normal environment, which is OHSU. We'll hear much more from Dr. Selden coming up at 10 o'clock. Reporting live in studio, Brenna Kelly, Fox 12 Oregon.
Brenna, thanks. And that derailment certainly having a huge impact on traffic, especially along I-5, specifically the southbound portion. It's still closed right now.
And Fox 12's Wayne Garcia joins us now with a look at some of the alternate routes. Wayne?
Yeah, you guys, Washington Department of Transportation tweeted out this afternoon that I-5 southbound, as you can imagine, in that area of Dupont, will likely be closed through at least tomorrow morning. Officials say that's just an estimate. A definitive time has not yet been determined. Northbound lanes are open, but they're asking that if you can, leave it open for emergency vehicles. So the question is, what do you do if you know someone has to travel southbound from up in the Seattle area? Well, there are some alternative routes, but they are going to take you some time. So let's take a look. Here's one way you can go right now. If you're up in the Tacoma area, you can go all the way around to the Olympic Peninsula, then down to Tumwater. Usually that would be about an hour and 20-minute detour, but with so many people forced to take that route to the west, it's going to be even longer. Let's take a look at another alternative. This may work for some people as well. If you're starting out again in the Tacoma area, you take Highway 7 all the way down to the 507, and that will eventually put you to Grand Mound, which is past the problem spot. There is one more suggestion. This is also going to take some time, but at least it might be a little bit scenic. They suggest that you take the ferry to Bremerton and then head down west of that trouble spot. So keep in mind, it's going to be slow going whichever way you choose. Also, some airlines such as Delta and Alaska are offering discounts between Seattle and Portland right now, so you might want to keep that in mind. Live in studio, Wayne Garcia, Fox 12 Oregon.
All right, Wayne, thank you. Let's switch gears now and take a look at the weather. Here's a live look outside from our Shriners Hospital camera.
All right, Chief Meteorologist Mark Nelson is here. It felt warmer. Many of us noticed that. Is that fog coming in?
Yeah, just actually we're in the clouds. The clouds are so low, they're right across the top of the West Hills. Now, if you're down below looking up, yeah, it looks like clouds. But we're in the fog, Shriners Hospital cam, and look at the temperature, still in the upper 40s. And today was our warmest day. In fact, we tied the highest temperature we've seen since Thanksgiving weekend. So it definitely was a little unusually warm. Newport, it's 50 degrees right now, south wind. Look at the last 13 days here, and you can see today we popped right up into the lower 50s, right as we forecast. The last time we were this warm was back in the first week of the month. Now, look at that. Everybody warm today, 54, 55 in the valley. Typical high temperature, mid-40s this time of the year. So we're now down to what is typically our coldest time of the year as we move through winter here. Now, look at the high temps east side, all 50s. A lot of these areas have been chilly for quite a long time with that cool east wind. But don't worry, that's going to come back. But check this out. For just the next week or more, we only see one wet day. It's going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow looks rainy and windy. Most of the heavier rain and the gusty winds should be up until about noon. Then I think it'll back off during the afternoon. After that, we see pretty much all dry weather from Wednesday at some point midday through next week. That includes, of course, Christmas weekend. And speaking of Christmas weekend, looks chilly. And maybe our coldest weather we've seen so far this season. Not like a big Arctic freeze. We're not seeing that right now, but it's going to feel like it, I think. Gusty east wind, high temperatures only around 40 or below. But tomorrow you want the umbrella and a jacket because it'll be rainy and breezy day. The rain will be falling on you otherwise. Most intense, like I said, before noon. And look at the south winds, maybe gusts to a 35. Temperatures hang right around 50 all day long. But for today, most of the rain has been just to the north. We've just been getting some light drizzle here in the metro area. But I think this whole band is going to sink to the south. The reason is we've got what's called a stationary front, and the name would imply, of course, it doesn't move much. It's been sitting there all day, but this little system coming along, that's going to push the whole thing to the south. That's why it turns rainy tomorrow. So take a look at the timing here. Tomorrow morning at daybreak, the rain is just arriving. And then by midday, that's when the most intense rain is. It's a cold front. Watch the Cascades. They turn all blue as we just get pounded with snow up there in the second half of the day. By Wednesday morning, most of it's gone, and Wednesday afternoon may just be partly cloudy. Pretty pleasant day, and that is it, folks, for rain. But big picture here, we do see a change coming up. We've got the cool air mass coming through now, but here comes our big ridge of high pressure along the coast, and that's going to block storms once again beginning Thursday and beyond. So here in Portland, right around 50 all day long tomorrow. Looks like a very wet day. Most of the wind early in the day in your 7-day forecast. Chilly, but I think we'll avoid any moisture falling from the sky probably after about midday Wednesday. Christmas, high temperature only in the upper 30s.
All right, Mark, thank you. Coming up here in the 5 o'clock news, the train derailment left at least 3 killed and around 100 hurt.
A lot of people wondering right now, how could something like this happen? We talked to a train expert on what he thinks went wrong.
Also, another live look at the scene right now. Our coverage continues. We'll be right back after the break.
Well, we're continuing to track the breaking news out of Dupont, Washington tonight. Officials now saying that 3 people were killed and roughly 100 injured in a deadly train derailment. As details continue to come in, we're getting new perspective from a national railroad operations and safety expert.
That's why we head next to Fox 12's Caitlin Bolduc. She joins us live in studio with his theories about what may have gone wrong in this train's inaugural ride. Caitlin.
Yeah, we spoke with Richard Beal. He is a recently retired locomotive engineer with 47 years of railroad operating experience under his belt. He's considered a national safety expert and has analyzed numerous crashes involving Amtrak trains in recent years. Beal says based on what he knows, he believes speed to be a factor in this crash. Beal tells us the curve in the rail line is what tells the story of what went wrong for him. After examining video and photo evidence of the scene, he's keying in on a dark patch of churned up dirt that is visible just before the curve. To him, that dark patch of dirt indicates the train was taking the turn too fast. And when the conductor tried to brake, it caused the cars to jackknife.
I can always be proven wrong, but that's my number one guess, and I bet you I'm 99% right on it. What I'm speculating is, and I'm betting that there was only one person in the cab of the locomotive. Might have been a 5-man train crew, but I bet there's only one guy in the cab. If this train's going on a track and it happens to be doing the 75 or 79 miles an hour that's the posted track speed until you get to the curve, and the guy just forgets or doesn't know his location good enough because it's a brand new run to him, there should have been another set of eyes up there to, hey, there's a slow order on this curve coming up. Better break this train. One guy up there. Major contributing factor, and it all has to do with trying to save money and cut costs and not have enough people to do the job. They never learn from the mistakes. Never. They'll just say, oh, we run tens of thousands of trains, hundreds of thousands of trains every year, and this is one minor thing. It's not worth putting another person up there. And I say, you know, it is to the people that are maimed or the family members of the deceased.
Well, at this point, we are still working to confirm exactly how many Amtrak crew members were inside of the cab of the train at the time of the derailment. Again, Beal wanted to stress this was just his opinion at this point based on what he knows. The cause of the crash is, of course, still under investigation. Reporting live in studio, Caitlin Bolduc, Fox 12 Oregon.
Caitlin, thank you. Coming up on the 5 o'clock news, the train was on its inaugural ride this morning before going off the tracks.
And with that, we're going to take a look at the controversy surrounding the new route and why it was made in the first place.
And there's another live look right now at just one portion of the scene there. More from our reporters out in the field coming up right after the break.
I was just traveling to work this morning along I-5, and we all came to a sudden halt.
It's going to be a long time. There's damage to the bridge. There's damage to multiple vehicles down below.
All just tried to stop really quickly to avoid running into each other, to be honest. And once we all came to a stop, I was able to look up and see, unfortunate, this really scary thing of a train hanging off of the overpass.
Here, built it for the last probably 3 years, and we've lived here for 30 years. And we have 5 acres in this trestle or the train goes right in our backyard.
I-5 southbound will probably be closed for quite some time.
Lots of military personnel and people, their cars ran to try to help the best they could.
An Amtrak train derails in Dupont, Washington. Washington State Patrol now says 3 people have been killed, about 100 passengers taken to hospitals in the area. That train has not moved, and I-5 southbound is still closed right now.
Governor Jay Inslee has declared a state of emergency there in Washington, and we have been following this breaking news all day. And tonight we have team coverage for you. We begin with Fox 12's Jamie Wilson, who is live in Dupont, where the derailment happened. And Jamie, what can you tell us?
Well, Liz, we know the basic facts of this incident right now, but at this moment, I wanted to give our viewers a bigger scope of the scene here and the investigation and what is entailed with not only securing this area, but collecting evidence and removing this damaged train and the cars below. All of these vehicles are standing by. You have local utility folks, people who are heavy equipment machine operators just waiting for the proper time when the area is secure to go in there and remove these cars, as you can see, that are still dangling over this bridge at this hour. So a few minutes ago, we spoke with the local fire chief in this area, and he was saying, you know, you look at incidents like this, these kinds of scenarios on paper, you incorporate them into your training regiment, but then to actually see something like this happen is overwhelming. But he was saying that he is so proud of the way everyone has handled themselves and the coordination and the teamwork that has gone into this. So just keep in mind, this is not only about Amtrak, it's not only about state troopers. It is about all of these people who are going to be part of the cleanup effort and the collection of evidence as well. So a lot of people having a very long night out here tonight, into tomorrow as well. So keep these folks in your thoughts as well. They have a big job ahead of them to not only do this investigation well, but to keep this area safe. Guys, back to you.
Jamie, many good points. Thank you so much for that. Amtrak says it is saddened by today's derailment, and it is doing everything possible to help out investigators. Amtrak officials had a phone conference earlier today telling reporters that they'll be focusing on their passengers and employees first.
I want to be clear on behalf of all of us here that we will do everything in our power to support our passengers, their loved ones, their families, our employees. I've made it clear to all the folks at Amtrak that no expense will be spared to help the people that were injured and the folks who lost their lives on this train.
Amtrak's CEO declined to comment on any specifics about what happened today, only saying that right now he will leave that to investigators.
Well, many of the people on board that train say they feel fortunate to have survived today's derailment.
Fox 12's John Hendricks is live tonight in Dupont with what some of the passengers had to say after the crash. John?
Well, Pete and Liz, to see this in person, it is very surreal to see that destruction and that damage. Very tough to put into words. We're here at Dupont City Hall, where a lot of those passengers who were not hurt were brought here to either meet up with family or be taken home by bus. And now we spoke with an Amtrak passenger, Anthony Raimondi, earlier today. He's a retired Amtrak ticket agent, and he was just on a fun day trip to Portland to celebrate this new service. Raimondi was riding in the front car in business class. He says that they were going along, and all of a sudden he felt the train kind of leaning towards one side. Things went dark and stuff started flying around. Raimondi says he could hear people screaming. He describes for us the moments following as passengers tried to get out of those train cars.
One guy he pushed the window out, because you can push those windows out. And then I helped him get down, and he helped me get down, and then we helped another person get down.
Now, Raimondi says he feels very lucky to have walked away from this crash. He was able to hop on a bus here at City Hall and head back home. Now, Governor Inslee was also here this morning, where he met with the families and the folks who were on that bus before he headed out to tour that damage. He's telling folks tonight, make sure that you're holding your loved ones close and praying for those in this crash. Reporting live tonight, John Hendricks, Fox 12 Oregon.
All right, and that train was bound for Oregon, supposed to end up in Portland. And this afternoon, some of the surviving passengers arrived in the Rose City by bus.
Fox 12's Kelsey Watts is live tonight at Union Station with that part of our coverage. Kelsey.
Well, Pete, it has certainly been an emotional day here as well, with some families left with no choice but to wait for their loved ones to arrive here. Luckily, this afternoon, that wait came to an end. We want to show you some video, if we can, of that bus arriving today. It came in around 3:30 today. 8 passengers who had been on that train walked off the bus. They were met by members of the Red Cross who have been here all day, ready to provide support and assistance to anyone who needs it. In fact, we spoke off camera with one woman who was supposed to be on that train this morning, but due to a scheduling conflict, she missed it. She made it to Portland another way. She was sitting on the ground inside Union Station in tears, just waiting to get home to Bend. We also spoke with a father whose daughter arrived on that bus this afternoon, and as you can imagine, all he wanted to do was wrap his arms around her and take her home.
She called me after she was stabilized to a level, and luckily she had a phone and she had her purse. Everything else is gone.
And members of the Portland chapter of the American Red Cross have been here at Union Station all day today. They focused especially this afternoon, of course, on those arriving passengers, working with them to provide any mental health counseling they might need, any emotional support, and just kind of the basics once they arrived here in Portland, things like figuring out ground transportation after what has been a very difficult day. Live at Union Station tonight, Kelsey Watts, Fox 12 Oregon.
Well, this Amtrak train was on a new route and was making its first run as part of a higher speed service that local authorities had warned could be dangerous.
Fox 12's Brian McMillan has a look at this brand new route as well as the reason for the changes.
The new route was designed to speed up service by removing passenger trains from a route along the Puget Sound that's bogged down by curves, single-track tunnels, and freight traffic. You see that green area right here? That's the route that most people have taken over the past several years. Now, this plan would save about 10 minutes of travel time. You could see the orange area here is the WashDOT project area, and the blue line right here is the bypass. This is the Sound Transit Improvement area right here, and that is along that is where the derailment happened. State Department of Transportation posted information about the project online that says the maximum speed along that stretch of track is 79 miles per hour. The project cost more than $180 million in construction, had been going on for years. We talked to one woman who lives alongside the tracks.
Here, built it for the last probably 3 years, and we've lived here for 30 years. And we have 5 acres, and this trestle or the train goes right in our backyard. I'm just wondering if they did any dry runs on this before the passengers aboard.
The mayor of Lakewood, Washington, a city along the route, predicted a deadly crash. Earlier this month, the mayor raised safety concerns about the new train route.
Come back when there is that accident to try to justify not putting in those safety enhancements. Or you can go back now and advocate for the money to do it, because this project was never needed and endangers our citizens.
The Seattle Times spoke to Mayor Don Anderson today. He said, quote, "I didn't predict a time, but I did say somebody is going to get killed. I hope that wasn't right. The principal risk we identified was actually the number of crossings and the lack of familiarity people had in the area with trains. We thought a train-vehicle collision was virtually inevitable." Anderson said the city's primary concern was the number of at-grade railroad crossings along the new railroad. Those are the kinds of crossings where you see the flashing red lights, like right here. You see these in Portland a lot. Sometimes the gate comes down, and sometimes you hear a bell. Well, Anderson also asked for more grade separations, like overpasses, to keep trains and cars away from each other as much as possible. In studio, Brian McMillan, Fox 12 Oregon.
People across the Northwest are literally lining up to help out during this tragedy.
Let's go now to Fox 12's Wayne Garcia. He's live in studio. And Wayne, a lot of people asking, how can I help?
Yeah, this is one way. Blood Works Northwest is the organization that helps deliver blood to many hospitals in Western Washington and into Oregon, too. And earlier today, folks there put out the call they needed help, and they are getting that help right now. I'm going to show you a picture of the line out the door of folks who turned out to give blood. Some waited for 6 hours to give blood. Northwest Blood Works tweeted out that they have already issued about 150 units of blood because of that Amtrak crash. And that's put a strain, of course, on local blood supply levels. Because of the need, they've opened up additional giving centers across Washington, including in Vancouver, Washington. You can find more information if you'd like to give at bloodworksnw.org. Another organization you'd expect to be stepping up is the American Red Cross, and they are. The Red Cross set up a support center in Union Station in Portland this afternoon. It was a place where loved ones of those on board the train could come for emotional support.
So they might have questions. We're here to answer as best we can, and then of course offer emotional support, trained mental health responders, a snack, and just a shoulder to cry on and a hug.
Besides just the Amtrak crash, the holidays are traditionally a time when blood centers run short of blood because so many people are busy with shopping and vacations. They don't take the time to go in and donate. Plus, you add to that the high jump in travel on the roadways, which can lead to more accidents. So this help today is really coming at a good time. It seems as though people in the Northwest are more than glad to help out.
I love seeing that line of people.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Northwest spirit is going strong. Thanks so much, Wayne.
All right, Wayne, thanks.
Well, straight ahead on the 5 o'clock news, putting today's derailment in perspective. This is not the first Amtrak crash in recent years.
After the break, we took a closer look at some of the major ones.
And it has been a very rough start to the ski season. Lots of bare spots off the groomed runs, but we see more than a foot of snow coming up. We'll let you know how much when it looks best as we head closer into Christmas break for some kids and others already out. That's coming up.
Welcome back. We continue to follow breaking news tonight. An Amtrak derailed in Dupont, an Amtrak train. And Dupont is south of Tacoma. This is a live look this evening of the scene, which remains there. This is close to 10 hours later. Washington State Patrol tells us 3 people have been killed. Around 100 passengers have also been taken to hospitals in the surrounding area. Again, we've been following this breaking news all day long for several hours at this point. You're getting a closer look because investigators still need to piece together what exactly happened as they comb through the evidence. And kind of at the bottom right of your screen, it looks to be perhaps a crane or some sort of equipment that has been brought in into the later hours as they continue to assess the situation. Now, we also know this is just one of many major Amtrak crashes in recent years, though.
Fox 12's Caitlin Bolduc joins us now with a look at some of the other derailments. Caitlin.
Yeah, newly released information is shining a light on Amtrak's history of crashes in recent years. We've learned through the Associated Press that Amtrak was involved in at least 9 crashes since 2011. Those crashes are happening across the nation. The most recent crash happened back in April of 2016. 2 maintenance workers were struck and killed by an Amtrak train going more than 100 miles per hour in Pennsylvania. The lead engine of that train derailed in that case. In March of 2016, an Amtrak train traveling from Los Angeles to Chicago derailed in Kansas, sending 5 cars off the tracks and injuring at least 32 people. Investigators concluded a cattle feed delivery truck hit the track and shifted it at least a foot before that derailment. In May of 2015, Amtrak train 188 was traveling twice the 50-mile-per-hour speed limit as it hit a sharp curve in Philadelphia and derailed. 8 people were killed there and more than 200 were injured when the locomotive and 4 of the train's 7 passenger cars jumped the tracks. Several cars overturned and ripped apart. In March of 2015, at least 55 people were injured when an Amtrak train bound from North Carolina to New Jersey derailed after colliding with an oversized tractor trailer that was struck on one of the tracks in North Carolina. Again, these are just some of the most recent crashes that we found. Of course, investigators are still working to figure out exactly what happened in this case, and the cause of the crash is still unknown. Certainly, Amtrak will have some serious questions to answer in the following hours as to how something like this may have happened. Reporting in studio, Caitlin Bolduc, Fox 12 Oregon.
Thank you, Caitlin. Now, today's train derailment in Washington is also slowing down shipping services at the post office. You see, this is on the busiest shipping week of the year all across the country, not just here. Now, we spoke with one gentleman with the U.S. Postal Service for the Portland district, and he tells us they are expecting to process about 310 million pieces here in the Portland area alone from Thanksgiving through New Year's. He says it's too early to tell the impact of today's derailment and how exactly it will have an effect on shipping.
Obviously, they're rerouting the traffic around the accident. but there will be some delays, but at this time we don't know what those delays will be.
Now, additional temporary workers were hired this holiday season at various USPS facilities. If you do want your package to arrive by Christmas Day, he does give you some advice to just send your items out as soon as possible using priority mail or express, and do that by Friday.
All right, time now to take a look at our first live local forecast. Mark Nelson's going to deliver that for us.
Let's talk about snow in the mountains.
Okay.
And it's going to come pretty low, actually. Take a look at the snow level here, the forecast from one of our models here over just the next about 2.5 days. And right now, we've actually got snow sticking up above Timberline Lodge. The snow level is very high. This is kind of the line that tells you how low the snow could stick. You notice we get to midday tomorrow and there's a sudden drop. It's right in here. Yeah, they were about noon tomorrow. Suddenly drops below the passes. If you're going through the passes tomorrow, you're clear until about noon, and then we just get a huge dumping of snow right in here. Now, also notice, by the time we get to sometime after sunset tomorrow evening, it comes pretty close to the highest Coast Range passes. Sunset Summit could see at least some slush on the ground tomorrow night or into Wednesday morning. After that time, it goes dry, but that tells you how much cooler the air is that's coming in. Also notice we don't see it coming down all the way to the top of the West Hills. I suppose you might see an errant flake mixed in somewhere Wednesday morning, but that would be it. So a winter storm warning is up for the Cascades. About 1 to 1.5 feet of new snow. That's above mainly 3,000 feet. In the end, there will be snow down about 1,500 feet on Wednesday morning, but that includes all the Cascade passes and, of course, Government Camp. So this snow is badly needed. It's been a really rough year so far. But in the Coast Range, there is a winter weather advisory, 2 to 6 inches possible above about 1,500 feet. The Sunset Summit, I think, is 1,500 or 1,600 feet. So once again, could be some slush on the road late tomorrow night or Wednesday morning, but it's just not a big snow producer down at the lower elevations like that. But you can see one of our models here saying maybe close to 20 inches up at Timberline. But that's the only wet system coming through here, white in the case of the Cascades. Check this out. By the time we get to Wednesday afternoon, it's drying out, and that is it. Now, there's this little system dropping out of Canada on Friday morning. We might get a sprinkle out of that. A lot of our models are totally dry with this. Beyond that, there goes Christmas weekend. There's nothing happening except a strong east wind and chilly temps, northern moisture through the early to middle part of next week. So forecast of the coastline, morning rain, then it kind of backs off in the afternoon. Temperatures right around 50. Here in the valleys tomorrow, temperatures pretty much hold steady, right around 50 all day. A rainy day, most of the wind will be the first part of the day, maybe gusts to 35. In the gorge, a wet day too. West wind picks up late, maybe gusts to 25 out at Hood River in the Dalles. That's like towards sunset. And Mount Hood, remember, it's okay in the morning, and then the snow really hits about midday. Wet over the passes early, really snowy by sunset. And then east of the Cascades, you're in the warm air ahead of the system, so look at these 40s and 50s. You will be much cooler coming up on Wednesday with the rain ending on Wednesday, actually changing to snow showers. 7-day forecast, and you see the cool down here. Dry and 42 on Thursday. Friday, maybe a sprinkle. We'll see a high 42. And then look at these high temps, upper 30s to right around 40. Christmas weekend looks chilly but sunny with, of course, cold, clear nights. And we get calm nights in here. Even in the city, we could be in the lower 20s. So that is probably pipe wrapping weather. You might want to make sure your faucets are covered for this coming weekend.
All right. Thanks for the warning there, Mark. We appreciate it. Straight ahead on the 5 o'clock news, heart-stopping moments for one deputy as a car came speeding toward their patrol car head-on.
And the whole thing was caught on camera. We're going to have a look at the footage and what happened just moments after this close call. Caught on camera, a local deputy's close call with a speedy driver. Luckily, he's okay. The driver, though, didn't get away. Clackamas County Sheriff's deputies tweeted out this video this morning. The sheriff's dash cam caught the oncoming car speeding past traffic. We're told the driver of the Corvette was going 105 miles an hour along Highway 224. Even almost hit that deputy head on. The deputy was able to eventually catch up to the driver, and in a tweet, the deputy advised him of his poor decision making. The Salvation Army struck gold in one of its red kettles over the weekend. The organization says a solid 1-ounce brick of gold was found in a red kettle at the Fred Meyer on Southeast Hawthorne Boulevard, and that was on Saturday. The bar was marked, stamped, and in a protective case, as you see. Salvation Army saying it'll secure the gold and get it appraised by a professional. Experts say 1 ounce of gold is valued at $1,200.
The Spirit Mountain Casino spread some cheer to children at Dornbecker Children's Hospital today by dropping off a truckload of gifts just in time for the holidays. TP Freight Lines donated a semi-truck full of toys this afternoon. Now on its 10th annual toy drive, casino guests donated a new toy in exchange for free slot play. Spirit Mountain Casino was able to purchase $5,000 worth of toys for the kids, and even an autographed guitar by Kenny Rogers and Rodney Carrington to be auctioned off at the Dornbecker Spring Auction.
Still to come, at least 3 people killed in an Amtrak derailment in Washington State. We'll have the very latest on the investigation into what happened this morning.
And we're hearing the stories of survivors who were on board that train.